Manchester City's chairman, Khaldoon Al-Mubarak, has been speaking to the Manchester City website. But the thing is it something of a cop-out for him just to be speaking on the club's in-house channel? Because obviously, if it was ourselves, and at some stage we will speak to him, we would ask him a whole bunch of things that we think are of interest, not just to City fans, but in the wider context of things, not least the 115 FFP charges that City are facing. This was Khaldoon Al-Mubarak's take on that.
Obviously, I can't talk about them, unfortunately, for legal reasons. What I would typically do is always comment after. So I think we're going through the legal process. And these are proceedings that take whatever time they take, and when we're done, we'll have a conversation. And I'll give you my very blunt views. I promise you that I have very strong views on that, but I am going to be unfortunately very restrained today.
I'm sure. I mean, I understand that fully, but I mean, surely you've got a view on the way the club is being, not the word, characterised in the wake of the charges.
Yes, of course. I mean, that's very frustrating because it takes so much from the great work that's happening in this club, and it's happening not just on the football pitch. The football pitch, we talked about it. What these players have achieved this year, the treble, is incredible, and I hope people focus and judge them for their football and what they're achieving on the pitch and what they're achieving in every competition they're in. That's the reality. The club as a whole is well run, is very well run.
So it should be.
So, well, that was the chairman, Khaldoon Al-Mubarak. He's a man I've met on a number of occasions. He's a charming individual. But here's the thing. Why does he need to be restrained on this topic right now?
I don't believe so. I mean, look, what he doesn't want to do, and I don't blame him for not wanting to do it, is have his views spelled out about the agenda that they believe is being served up by certain factions of football. And I would advise him probably not to say that, because ultimately that's not going to help his position when he's going into a court case where he starts flinging around accusations about people's motivations. But he can most certainly discuss the facts of the case. He can most certainly discuss the reasons why Manchester City are absolutely and undeniably and irrefutably and unequivocally innocent of any of these charges, because that doesn't compromise anyone's point of view. First of all, he's not going into the courts, so he's not under sub judice, so he's not going into the law of the land. He's going in through a process that football itself convenes, albeit with legal guidelines. And the perspective that he's trying to advance is that he can't. It's not a case of can't, he won't. He won't talk about it right now. I remember, again, I hate to keep trotting out my experiences and hate to keep bringing the same individual into the equation with Dowie, but I was pretty vociferous when I flung a writ at Dowie in front of a press conference about his breach of contract and fraudulent misrepresentation. And I remember doing interviews with you on Sky Sports about precisely what he was guilty of, precisely what I was going to do to him in court, and precisely what I said I was going to do. We did. We got him convicted of it. So this is nonsense.
But that's different, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's basically...
You're in the front foot there. They're having to defend something.
But they're defending themselves on the basis that they believe that they're completely and utterly innocent of anything. Now, would I advise them to turn around and say, I have very blunt views about why this is happening, right? And their views are very clear, that they believe that there is a conspiracy of cartel invested interests that will maintain the best position, and they're conflicted by what Man City have done and doing, and they don't like it. We don't have to have that speech rehearsed. We've had it rehearsed already. They've told us that. What we'd like to know, and if we do, I think I'm speaking for most people, is the unequivocality of why you're so innocent. What it is that's made you so innocent, because the allegations have been made by a number of governing bodies that Manchester City refuse to cooperate. These, to me, don't smack of the attitude of an innocent person. And I'm not suggesting that I've made my mind up. I am suggesting it. I do think that Man City have a case to answer, but I don't think they've had a case to answer for the last 5 years. I think they've run the football club and been able to run the football club on the basis of adhering to financial fair play. I think you can see from their transfer activity, you can see from their financials, you can see from the numbers that they put out there, both in a public domain and ones that you can find for yourself, that clearly Man City now is a football club being run in a certain way.
Yeah, but no matter the timescale, they say they're innocent.
But no one's talking about that timescale now. No one's bringing charges against them for situations, post 2018. They're bringing charges against them of the journey and the mechanisms and the levers that they pulled to get to the position to build the platform that they can leap off to be the best side in world football.
See, everybody listens to us. This is a former Manchester City executive. He couldn't possibly comment on the alleged charges, as you know, due to the legal process. I've no doubt when everything is dealt with, he will have a lot to say.
He can most certainly comment on the nature of the position that Man City wish to take. He can comment on the reasons why they're not guilty of the allegations. He can comment on the observations that he wishes to make about the nature of the charges being brought against them. What he can't do is possibly compromise the situation by suggesting there's agendas and talk about the nature. Having spent my life in a very litigious way, I know what you can and can't say. It's not a case of what you can and can't say, it's what you will and won't say.
So if you were him, what would you say this morning?
If I were him, I certainly wouldn't be talking about the reasons why these charges have been brought. I would talk about the nature of the charges and my response to those charges. Because my response is very clear. There's nothing. This information is very clear. I'm not guilty of anything. We are undeniably not guilty of anything. We have done nothing wrong. Nothing whatsoever wrong.
And we will
None
prove
of the
that.
charges have any coherency,
Right.
any cogency, and just as a little sampler, so that we can point you at a particular case, a charge that we're being brought forward to us, XYZ charge, totally and utterly untrue. Totally and utterly untrue. These things are not true. Now, they're more convoluted and more complicated, and your little mate can sit there with his Man City hat on, telling you what he would do. But the bottom line is I've spent my life in court, and I know what compromises a case and what doesn't compromise a case.
So why is
and
Scotland not doing
that?
So why is he not doing that?
Because he wants to do it from a position of not having to answer to the consequences of the outcome. Once the outcome's been determined, if they find them guilty, right, then we'll have a different conversation. If they find them not guilty, he can come straight over the top and lay the best gloves on the people that he believes have had an agenda against the football club, are doing it from a position of wanting to unseat them. There are motivations that have nothing to do with the integrity of the sport, a whole raft of things that will be in their back pocket that they're dying to say. Okay. But the problem is for everybody, I cannot get my head round the idea that someone that's undeniably innocent of something decides to accept punishments of 11 million euros here for not cooperating, 60 million euros over here, reduced to 20 million because it's an easier path to go, yet sits on the front foot telling you we are guilty of nothing. It's not difficult. Don't delay things, get a fast-track mentality, get things to the natural conclusion, and drive a stake through the hearts of those that consider you to be guilty of something.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.